it being recorded? No, because we paused it.
There we go.
Hi, everyone. Are we ready?
Ready?
I love live. Live doesn't give you any chance for errors. So I'm so excited to be with you all on another episode of Exit Rich. And so on this episode of Exit Rich, we have my very good friend, Tara Watterson. So Tara Watterson is an author, speaker, TV host, CEO of Kids Revolution Worldwide, global ambassador for American Prep, the first online K-12 school providing mental health for kids. She has been in the health and wellness industry for over a decade. It's a long time. Tara is an award-winning interior designer, a certified fitness trainer. I need a fitness trainer. And she's passionate about mental health for adults and children globally. She's dedicated her life to improving the life of others, both mentally and physically. She's traveled all over the world. In fact, I think you just came back from Italy.
Yes.
And she has won several awards and has been featured in various talk shows, radio shows. Tara's greatest passion is utilizing the latest technologies and scalable systems, which I always talk about in my book, Exit Rich, which will make a huge impact on lives of women and children globally, living a life of adventure and empowering others to do the same. So Tara, welcome to the show.
Yay, thank you. Hello, everyone.
So if everybody knows me and knows Exit Rich, I always have a green screen that has Exit Rich. But of course, I had a little malfunction here. So now you get to see my put together, not so put together, messy bookshelf. So Tara, welcome to the show. I'm so happy to finally have you on. And I know you must be jet lagged because you just got back from Italy. I think you arrived probably, in the middle of the night?
Yes. Totally worth it. But I think I still feel like I'm on the plane or on one of the boats in Venice or both.
Well, now you're on the Extra Rich podcast. So Tara, I like to get to really know my guest. I like my listeners to get to know our guest, and I always say every great entrepreneur has a good backstory. So what is your backstory? What were you like as a little girl?
Oh my gosh. One of those things it's joking, like known in my family, like I was the forerunner, the oldest of four amazing boys. And from the time I was little, there was always something that had to go ahead and figure things out. I had this extreme desire, even from the time that I was little, to show, and it started with my family, that we could have a better life. It didn't have to always be what we were taught and told, and we didn't have to repeat the same patterns or live the same lifestyle that our families did before us. So that led me to traveling at a young age and taking my brothers and friends with me to show them the world without realizing that wasn't quite the normal thing to do when you're younger.
Awesome. So I know you got so much to talk about when it comes to Kids Revolution. You're probably one of the most passionate people I know, always smiling. Like I know when I speak at masterminds, I'm like, Tara, tell me to smile, make me smile, because I forget to smile sometimes when I'm on stage. But before we jump into Kids Revolution and your true passion, I really want to jump in to business entrepreneurship. Let's because look, entrepreneurs are so busy. We're attending to our business, we're attending to our homes, our family life, our children, homework, any social, issues that our kids have. I know my daughter's 11, turning 12, going on 16,
Yep.
And every day she comes home with some type of, well, this girl did this to me and that happened and this happened. And parents just have so much to deal with. And we're trying to balance, we're trying to juggle everything. What coping mechanisms do you have for entrepreneurs? We'll talk about entrepreneurs dealing with children later, but what type of coping mechanisms do you have for business owners to really help them, go through the entrepreneurial obstacle course? Because every day, every minute, there's, fires that we're putting out, hoops we're jumping through, just trying to stay afloat and grow our business.
Yeah.
Your advice.
Absolutely. So for, again, those mega entrepreneurs, busy moms, busy parents, There really is one secret superpower that I have found that changes everything. And I like to ask this first, like, have you ever woke up, started your day, you had a plan, you had an agenda, and then the majority of it didn't get done, or you felt knocked off course. And by the end of the day, you're like, I didn't get half of what I wanted actually done. Have we ever been
and
there?
so
Anybody listening?
of course, but
Yeah.
I'm very disciplined. So when I set up my day, I get up at 4:15 a.m. and I work out for an hour and a half, hour, 15 minutes. And I do the climber. So I do that for 45 minutes, and then I do weights. And then, I set aside so much time to read. And then I get ready, and then it's a Chinese fire drill because then I got to get ready. I got to get my daughter ready, get her to school, spend 2 hours in the car before I even make it to the office. So I've already done probably half of the day's worth of activities before 8 o'clock in the morning.
Before I did. And that literally, for all of you listening right there, is like the gold medal prize. For a lot of the ones that I work with that are finding things get off course, it's not having the power of a morning routine. And there's a lot of stuff that can look like. But what I've found, if you don't give yourself that good time in the morning, whether it's a half hour, that's also one of the myths too, is so many people think, okay, I need to spend all this time working out and all this time on my mental health. But literally, we like to teach the power of as little as 25 minutes in the morning, giving yourself that time to start with you. That's when everything starts to fall into place. And obviously, look at your scenario, you're crushing it, doing a lot of different things. And I haven't seen anyone without a morning routine truly be able to do all the things that we're meant to do.
Yes, routine, and my morning routine works well. And then I get in the office and all hell breaks loose. Because, that's why I always set aside one day, it's usually Friday, to work on the business, not in it. But just, coping mechanisms for business owners on ways to improve efficiency, reduce stress, be able to, not burn out so quickly. I know business owners like, oh my God, it's half a day and already burned out and can't focus on the rest of the day.
Completely. And that was literally, and we'll talk about, how the kids revolution truly came to be. But it started with me working with busy entrepreneurs who didn't have the time, who didn't know where to start, giving like a very simple mapped out 25-minute challenge to really get to experience what you can do in the morning to start feeling great.
Yeah. Yeah. So that's great. So how did you get started in Kids Revolution? I know you're an interior decorator, you're a fitness trainer. When we go to masterminds, I stay out and party, and you go to bed early and get up and lead the group walk and the group workout. Well, I don't do that. I work out when I'm at home. So how did you get started in all of that?
So that was like, we're talking about the secret superpower. I love and appreciate the compliments of me smiling, but I have to say part of the backstory is I wasn't always that way. I went through 2 years of extreme depression, not wanting to get out of bed. I was 50 pounds heavier. And honestly, I know some people have these stories too, but I didn't really even want to exist anymore. I was missing events with my son. Like so many of us, I'd had something traumatic happen, and I just almost gave up on my life. And I remember saying, all right, God, take me or use me. And something started to happen. And this is when I truly stepped into what we call now the 28 days to activate. And it is that power of that morning routine where I combined that 12 years of personal development experience coupled with what I saw not working at the gym. So I know my husband laughs at me sometimes when I say this, but the gym isn't for everyone. And if you can't make it to the gym every day and you can't have that consistency, what could we do? And having gone through poor health, my body couldn't handle hour-long workouts. So that's what led me into the 28 days to activate, combining the mind, body, and spiritual health in the morning that changed everything.
So how did you find this 28 days? Because when you're in that deep depression, when you come to the realization that God, just take me now. Yeah. It's hard for people to get unstuck from that. And it's hard, Tony Robbins says it's easy. You just snap out of it and change your state of mind. But how did you, number one, develop that? And how did you kind of snap yourself out of it?
Yeah, completely. If I could sum up one thing, and for everyone listening, if you are like in that hard spot, it's consistency over intensity. When I first started, literally it was a voice the next morning that said, get up and move. And every day after that, I started slowly walking. I started recording my voice. Like some people talk about like spiritual downloads. I started recording thought concepts and then doing different body movements. Really at the time, that's all I was capable of. And something happened after 4 days where all of a sudden the light was back in my eyes. Within 3 weeks, within the 28 days, I had lost 15 pounds, but I wasn't punishing myself. I wasn't working out hard. It was a 25-minute a day thing. And after I got better, I remember walking into my own health club and I heard the voice say, Tara, do you think you're the only person who's ever gone through something like this? And at the time I did, right? You feel so isolated and alone when you go through something traumatic, but the reality is so many of us have. And when you talk about being passionate, I became full force into creating something that people could do at home. And this was 6 years ago. To get them back mentally, physically, spiritually, emotionally. And that's what catapulted the 28 days to activate, which was digital. Now, 6 years ago, and you asked me about some of that business advice earlier, I did not know what a digital product was. I had no clue. I just knew that people needed something that they could do on their own time. If they couldn't schedule, all of this time slots and add things into their busy life, I had to provide them something that they could do anytime, anywhere. And that was truly like the transformation piece that I didn't even know I was doing at the time that led to it going global within the first 4 months.
Wow. So how long were you stuck? Obviously, we don't want to get into what led you there unless you want to, but how long were you stuck in that state? Was it a year? Was it 6 months?
2 years.
2 years. So stuck in that state for 2 years.
2 years.
And again, you just heard a voice that says, start walking, basically.
Yeah. Basically, after I said, like, this is it. And I had been blessed to live a life of purpose before, doing things that I love. Like I was born to help uplift people. That's something that I've known from a young age. And I stepped out of that through this depression. I was having seizures. There was a few times like my husband came home, I was on the floor and I remember opening up my eyes to him calling my name. I was in and out of the doctors and again, missing events with my son. And I just didn't want to do it anymore. But it was 2 years of ups and downs and poor health, and enough was enough.
So that was an effect of PTSD, it sounds like, post-traumatic stress syndrome.
Absolutely.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. So let's get into your 28 days and then we'll transition into Kids Revolution. And let's talk about your 28 days and how we can help. There's so many people listening right now that are depressed. They seem fine on the outside, right? They're not necessarily bedridden. They're not always 50 pounds overweight. But they're depressed and they have a hard time functioning at work. They have a hard time functioning in their business. And so let's talk about that 28 days, how to help, moms and men and business owners, employees, etc. And then we'll dive into Kids Revolution.
It truly reminds me, Brooke Gibbs was one of my first amazing clients, and she was like a trauma nurse. She was working 12-hour days, like 4 days a week. And then what she expressed to me later was that she was going home and sleeping. So it's like, if you are out there and you're finding that you can put your face on like just enough, right? You show up when you have to, but then the minute everyone's gone and you're finding yourself shut down, that to me is one of the most common things that are out there. And there really truly is a solution to it and for it. So when Brooke came to me, I said, I challenge you. I said 4 days in a row and give it a try. She also had an injury, by the way. So if anybody has injuries and you used to work out or you used to be healthy, but that injury stopped you, this is one of the greatest things you can do to get back on the horse, right? So after 4 days, she called me and she seemed like upset. And it was really fascinating. And she said, Tara, I can't tell you, I thought that you were full of it when you told me I was going to feel better. And then 3 weeks later, she's calling me, telling me she's never had to sleep again. She wasn't depressed anymore. And then ended up quitting her job and starting a nonprofit, like helping teenagers. this is something that isn't, like I like to say, rocket science. When we do take care of our mental and physical health, it can change everything. And the 28 days to activate, like I found before, like, okay, here you are, you go see a therapist over here, right? And even that, hundreds, thousands of dollars, and you got to schedule your time. So for all you entrepreneurs out there, it's like not exciting to add one more thing onto your schedule, especially if you don't see it producing income, right?
and especially if it, makes you feel worse when you get out.
Right. Yes.
Like, going like, oh my God,
talking about it isn't helping. And then you have your personal trainer. So you have to go over here. Then you got to see a nutritionist. Then you want some kind of like community. And for me, everything was all over and way too complicated.
And that's a full-time job in itself.
Yes. Yeah. And it doesn't have to be. Like, I'm excited for anybody watching. Like, the 28 days to activate is literally, I mean, the concept's simple. You walk listening to an audio, and then you have body movements, and then you connect and communicate with the coach via voice memos. When we combine new thought thinking with body movements to get rid of stress and communicate with another person who's already been there, it's magical. But the biggest piece was 25 minutes a day. That's it. It doesn't have to be these long hours. Now, if you work yourself into that, that's fine. But again, there's magic in the consistency over the intensity.
So what are they doing during that 25 minutes? And specifically, what did that nurse do in 4 days to realize that she had more energy? She wasn't depressed. She was sleeping better. She quit her job, started a nonprofit. What did she do in those 4 days to make those type of decisions?
Absolutely. So again, you literally, I have people lay your clothes out the night before. You wake up before you look at your cell phone, before you look at any emails, before you look at anything going on in your business life. It's important to check in with self. But a lot of us, if we haven't had this routine, we need to be guided. So remember when I shared in the beginning, I kind of got these divine thought concepts about self. So you wake up, you literally just put your headphones on and walk. So I had another client who was big in HR. She was traveling all the time. She said, Tara, I can't do this because I'm always traveling. Well, boom, guess what? She could wake up and walk anywhere, or even in her room if she had to. I've had people snowed in. You can get up and you walk listening to an audio. This is where we get these new thoughts, these new like neural pathways, this new thought frequency that starts changing our day. So you do a 10-minute walk with an audio. And then
what type of audio? Let's be specific. What type of audio?
No. So they're self-discovery audios. This is where we actually ask you questions about you. One of my favorite concepts, Dr. Maxwell Maltz, who discovered the power of self-image, won the Nobel Peace Prize for it. We actually have you start checking in with how do you see yourself? Right. And that's just the beginning. Each week is an adventure and it adds to it, but they're self-reflection. It's not Tara telling you what to think about you. That's one of the biggest problems. Now people get so confused is there's too many outside sources telling you who you are, what you need to be. That's like the problem with the kids, right? Social media now that causes internal struggle, strife, stress, anxiety, and all of it. So you start with an audio that's asking you about yourself, but the power is the combination of both, because the second step is these activating body movements. So what I didn't realize in the beginning is there's actually body movements you can do to help activate your brain, make you smarter, faster, increase your memory.
Show us a couple of those body movements. Yeah, show us a couple of those. Can you do it? You can do them on screen, right?
Yeah, I can do some of them. Now, this is like the most simple one that might surprise you. And when we do neurodevelopment with the youth, it catches people off guard. But when was the last time we even stretched our arms above our heads?
I do it every morning for 45 minutes on the stair climber.
But you're in that unique place. The majority of people are walking, sitting, typing.
That's why they get shoulder lock. It's called shoulder freeze.
And brain fog. So if we are not waking up our brain, and I call the activators body movements that you do not normally do in a day. So anything outside of the norm actually starts to wake up that brain activity. And this is why Brooke started feeling better. This is why she was actually waking up her brain and not staying numb and stuck and cloudy minded. So a lot of people get that really tired afternoon fog. It's all what's happening chemically in the brain.
They can just sit at their desk and move their shoulders.
Yes, I have incredible like desk ones. So there's a science behind combining the two, and you're done within 25 minutes. And the third step is actually the voice connection with another human being. One way that we can cement in new thought concepts, like if you ever heard people go to an event, they forget everything in 72 hours,
Sure.
right? Is
usually in 6 hours, much quicker than 24 hours.
Right away. So when you voice memo a live person daily, you get access to, this is what cements in the long-term growth and the long-term change. This is why we started seeing miracles. But again, the power is the simplicity. You walk listening to an audio, do your activators, and voice memo your coach with consistency.
You have to, you need a coach. You need to have a coach to voice memo with. Is that what you're saying?
We have guides. We call them guides that you're voice memoing each day. So you're actually connected to another person and not in the state of what everybody went through the last few years of feeling isolated.
And they're talking back? This voice memo's talking back, or is it a one on? Yes. Okay.
Yes. Yeah.
Cool.
Yeah.
What else?
Final step. That's like I said, the power of the simplicity. Those 3 steps every day, done in 25 minutes. That consistency over intensity are truly what help us be chemically balanced. And you're starting to feel better. You're not as cloudy minded. Your memory's increased, your focus, your attention, and your overall well-being. This is why I smile a lot. It's practice from the activators. I know how to chemically balance where, antidepressants, for example, right, have serotonin built into them. But your body's ability with these special movements to produce serotonin naturally far surpass any pharmaceutical or chemical drug and what it's trying to do up here.
Right. Okay. So repeat those 3 steps, and how much time should we spend on each step?
Yes. So again, recapping, picture yourself waking up, walking in the morning, listening to an audio. Okay. So you're getting new thought thinking.
And how much time?
10 to 15 minutes. That's it.
And
then you follow it with activators. So activators, again, are body movements you do not do in a day. We have to wake up our brain because we have gotten so numbed out from so many things. So these are typically cross body movements, not painful, that actually wake you up chemically and all of that. I could talk about that forever. And then the third part is voice memoing your coach.
And are you doing, I'm sorry, I don't mean to interrupt, but are you doing the body movements, the activator while you're walking, or is that 2 separate?
Right after you're done walking.
Right after. Okay.
Yep.
You don't do it at the same time. Okay.
Nope. And that's 10 to 15 minutes. So again, you're done in 25 minutes. That's it. And then you voice memo your coach. When we actually leave our body wanting more, something happens. It's not the no pain, no gain. The whole thing that if you're not tired and suffering, you didn't do enough is why consistency doesn't stay. So when you leave your body wanting more, I like to put it like this. If you've ever been at the gym and you go, I can do 1 more rep and 1 more set. What if you didn't? What if you stopped and left your body wanting more? Do you know where all that energy goes into? Your mind, your energy, your focus throughout the rest of the day instead of body exhaustion. And this is how the energy increases. And it seems illogical, but it's actually how we were designed.
Yep. And same thing happens with me when I work out in the morning and I do that. And I'm not talking just a stair climber where you move your feet a little bit, but you move your entire body. And then I'll do some weights afterwards each day, but it does leave me wanting more. It makes me excited about working out the next day. And then if I don't work out, I feel terrible. I feel bad about it. I always say the hardest step is starting because there's been times where I've quit, there's been times where I'm on the speaking circuit and I just can't get that workout in. And the hardest thing is starting. So how do you encourage people to just get started?
Well, I love what you just said too, when we don't get it in. That was a huge problem that a lot of people were reliant on a machine or a location. And so like Veronica, for example, who was head of HR, she was used to a gym. So every time she'd travel and didn't have one, she was suffering. So the 28 days to activate it's all body weight only. And the key is starting small. If you
Yeah.
haven't worked out in a while but we're taught and told, go get a personal trainer and do an hour-long session. If you hurt yourself or injure yourself that first time, the body will subconsciously say, I don't want to do that again. But if you do 25 minutes and then stop,
Yeah.
the momentum builds.
And it is easy
because
because, I'm in a lot of hotel rooms. I'll do squats. I'll do like 100 squats with different hand movements. I'll do push-ups. And so it is easy to really take it anywhere for sure. How do you, I know I have a lot of friends. I know a lot of people suffering not just from depression, but also from pain. I have some close friends that are in pain 24/7. What do you suggest for those individuals?
I have been so fortunate to work with hundreds of women who had fibromyalgia, who had extreme inflammation. And I just can't say it enough when I'm using the word activator. These are body movements you don't normally do in a day. So I've had people with extreme inflammation be able to do these body movements. And if you need something lighter, I have the chair ones. So you can still walk a little bit and then do these body movements in a chair. The unfortunate reality is it takes that movement to alleviate the pain. But going to a gym and an hour-long session isn't that's not where I could start. So these activator movements are kind to the body.
Yeah.
They're nice on the body.
And I always say it's good, and I've been saying this for decades, that it's good to use both sides of your body, left brain, right brain. And really, we're all used to brushing our teeth with our right hand, and if we're right-handed, obviously, and doing things with our right hand, but it's important to become ambidextrous and really use both right hand, left hand, right, and left right brain.
Yeah.
And really try to become ambidextrous too when you're doing these activator moments. When you do
that literally is what studies have shown, that people who do that, right, are smarter, have a better memory, and have a better all quality and view of life. And that was why I had so many people had so many questions, but the biggest problem was so many people who were in pain, they were used to being told, again, for these hard workouts. So I did have to that's when I started. As I shared with you, I didn't know what a digital product was. On the business side, what I discovered that you could create a video that someone could watch and do on their own changed everything for me. But that was why I became so passionate about creating these 6-part activator series. So someone didn't have to think about it. You just follow along with these simple 6 body movements. And I've had people within just a few days, like the pain alleviated, less pain, less stress, but they were always surprised because it didn't have to be the hard workout.
Yeah, and what's really imperative and so crucial right now is what I see in my businesses and with my clients is that it seems like everybody's walking around in a fog, and I always say when it's fog, when you're in the middle of the fog, it's foggy, and it seems like everybody's just walking around in a fog and not awake, not conscious, not really thinking clearly. And that could be a multitude of things. It could be stress. It could be antidepressants. It could be a number of different things, lack of coping abilities. And I think it's so important to incorporate these exercises into your business environment because they don't take long at all. I mean, you could be sitting at your desk and doing things with your legs. There's so many different things that you could do that I think it's imperative to incorporate. And I mean, I see it, my own businesses where people are walking around in the fog. I'm like, wake up, what's going on?
And a lot of us aren't aware. Like I didn't realize what was happening when I first started this. I like the analogy of like a fish tank. Okay. Have you ever gotten a beautiful fish? You have that clear bowl, right? You put that fish in there and he's swimming around and he's happy and the water is clear, right? But in time, that fish has waste. And before you know it, that fish bowl is cloudy and funky. And what happens to the fish? All of a sudden he's like, he's not moving very quickly. And if you don't change that water, this is the best analogy. If you do not change the water, the fish pretty much dies. This is exactly what's happening with our brains and the chemical state of our mind, especially with lack of movement. So if you can literally picture that fish tank, when you feel yourself getting tired, cloudy, you're numb, you're kind of not caring as much, that's the chemical state of the brain. And by body movements, again, along the activators are specifically for that, you're flushing the chemical, the cortisol, the stress, the fear, the fight or flight from the brain and increasing the natural chemicals that leave you feeling fresh and alert. But there's a huge problem with lack of movement. And I think so many people have missed it because it actually is so simple.
Right, right. And not only that, but drinking water. I think it's so important to drink water because people just drink caffeine all day long.
Yes.
And I know when I drink, half my body weight in water, I've got so much energy I can't contain myself.
Yeah.
And
but you're moving. Like if anything, stress, movement, hydration, absolutely. But these body movements, doing things like that, if you want the simple set, you can be guided. But that is truly, when you're talking about the left and the right hemisphere of the brain, you're waking your brain up. And I know I joke, but I asked Google, what is the most vital organ we have in our body? And it's our brain. But how often do we exercise it? And not many people know how to do that. And the biggest solution is these cross body movements and movements we don't do in the day that literally get our brain in a state where it's able to grow and it flushes out the chemicals that are making us foggy and depressed. And it can happen when you're consistent. Consistency
it's
over
all about
intensity.
Consistency, 1,000%. So the 28-day plans, that's doing the walking, the activators, and the coach calls once a day, every day, correct?
Yes.
Okay, awesome. Yep. So that's kind of anything else there before we jump into Kids Revolution?
Yeah, well, and I mean, a great segue is it was 3 years ago that I had a group that was going through it. They all happened to be women at this particular challenge. Yep. And after the challenge, the 28 days, they messaged me. I had people in Australia, I had people in Paris, I had people locally in the States, and they said, we need to talk to you. And Michelle, they were like upset. And I didn't know what was going on, but I could feel it. And this was 3 years ago in October. My life was changed when these people came to me and they said, Tara, if we knew what we discovered through this 28-day challenge when we were kids, our whole life would be different. We wouldn't be struggling with our weight. We wouldn't be struggling with bad relationships, with exhaustion. And they literally demanded, they said, Tara, make a program for our children.
Okay, well, that's a great transition. Tell us all about Kids Revolution.
Yeah. So it was then that I started working with their kids. And I don't know if any of you out there, when you get like awake to a problem, you can't look away. And if you would have told me, like, I'll get good emotional about it 6 years ago, that I'd be working with kids globally for their mental and physical health, I wouldn't have believed you. But the problem was so big. It was so bad. These children, not lack of movement, lack of identity, lack of confidence. They were worse than any of the adults that I had seen from their movement and understanding who they are. And it's not the parents' fault, right? There's things that, my adults weren't even aware of. So when I started working with them and I saw the problem, I couldn't look away. We ended up building a facility in our health club, a Ninja Warrior course for kids. But again, there was another problem. And the best way I can relate it is when let's say your child gets diagnosed with ADHD, or that they're having social anxiety, you're seeing them compare themselves to all the things on social media, and you see them shrink down, right? A lot of the solution in the past was same thing with those. Go get them a psychologist, right? They need sessions. We want to help them. But that's
go put them on ADD, HDD medication.
Right. Yes.
And let's drug our kids.
It's terrible because what that actually does is stunt their brain growth. But so normally families would do this, and a lot of the parents had tried these things. They go get a psychologist, and look at that. That's thousands of dollars and hours of drive time as a parent, and it leaves the child feeling like there's something wrong with them. Then you have sports. Now, sports are great. However, what I discovered was typical sports are only 3 months. And again, as a parent, if you're a busy entrepreneur, that's drive time, which we'll do anything for our kids. But at the same time, that's hours of drive time, hundreds of dollars. And then after the sports activity, they are sitting on their behinds again. And then the other part is nutrition, because a lot of people who are enlightened are aware that it's what they're eating. But then you got thousands of dollars to a nutritionist, hours of drive time. And each time you're still, and we even tried brain balance. There's different neurodevelopment things. But when you take a child, and I'm not knocking it, but if you realize that you're taking them to an event, a place where they're being hooked up to a machines or being viewed behind glass, what is this doing for their identity and telling them who they are? So I had to do away with all of that. And the Kids Revolution became a daily challenge for children to do that's disguised as fun. So we call them superhero activators. So we're not going, all right, Johnny, there's obviously something wrong with you. You're struggling in school. So here's how we're going to help you. It's actually, hey, Johnny, I have something fun. Would you like to try activating your superpowers? And over 3 years, I worked with hundreds and hundreds of kids in person, but then discovered that didn't work for all families. There had to be a solution. And this came down to recorded videos and audios, meeting the children where they are at, something that they could do anytime, anywhere. So even split households, like for example, if they're going back and forth between two homes, they actually can still do their superhero activator videos. And this is where we combine mindset, body movements, we talk about nutrition, and then we connect them socially on live calls with children from around the world. And it took me a lot of learning what children won't do to discover what they actually will do. And that's the power behind the revolution, is it's tried and true and proven. And now we're, getting to expand in a bigger way.
That's amazing. So is that a 28-day program as well, or is that just ongoing? How does that work?
With the children specifically, and we of course have follow-up continue programs for our adults, but it has to be at least a year long. One of the biggest problems, and again, parents, if you have your kiddos in sports, is they're learning inconsistency. We're actually teaching the brain at a young age that you're only active for a season, and then you go to doing nothing. This was actually what I found out why the average gym membership person only uses it for 3 months. Their brain has been trained at a young age to go for 3-month periods, and then they stop and don't know why. So for the children, it's a year-long program minimum where they have daily challenges, and then they get to meet with other kids around the world. So that's how we keep them engaged, as well as, my favorite part, your child gets to become the star. So these videos that these kids are following each day are by kids for kids. And then after 3 months in the program, they get ownership of their own dance videos, activator videos that go out to kids all over the world. So I had to figure out, how do I keep them engaged for a full year so that they can be learning and getting these habits on a neurodevelopment side from a young age.
How are you incorporating affirmations into this program? Because the one thing that my husband and I do with our daughter is, I am intelligent, I am this, I am that, and then incorporating God, what she's thankful for, and then what she needs help with. So how are you incorporating that into this program?
And I love it. It's really great that you guys do that with her. And I also discovered that I don't know if you've ever seen it, that my children would probably listen to their peers sometimes over me. I'm telling my son he's amazing, but if somebody else his age tells him he's amazing, right? He's like,
or someone tells him he's not amazing. Like my daughter came home last night and said, my friend at school said I'm a fake friend.
Right. And see,
and so part of me wants to say, as a protector, you just tell your fake friend, you just tell her that you're a real friend and you have real friends you're going to go play with. Bye-bye. But then I'm asking her, well, you should ask her where that comes from. Is somebody using the word fake in her family? And try to understand where she's coming from and respond instead of react, because that's where bullying comes from.
That's where the bullying comes from. And so there's like two things here. So one, The I am statements is a very integral piece of what we do. So on a neurodevelopment side, and you're obviously familiar with that, some of the body movements we have them do, I am strong. So we're actually incorporating, and we allow the children to have their own ownership of this. They make their own I am statements and incorporate it with their own body movements. So we're sinking this in, not just on a surface level, because again, we've all told our kids some things, but do they really feel it, embrace it, and believe it? It obviously takes repetition, but unless they're doing it daily to some degree, it kind of counts a little less from the parent. Now, then what we do on the live calls, this is where we have each of the children. We are not telling or teaching the kids anything. We are allowing them full expression to express what their I am statements are with other peers. This is when I saw the true change, because just like, unfortunately, with your daughter, someone said something not nice. Imagine a space where the children are positively impacting each other. Johnny is telling Bobby he's awesome. And we go more in depth with more powerful I ams, but we start with the beginning ones. Well, Bobby just told Susie she's amazing. Susie owns it. So when we gather them and it's all neurodevelopment as well, when we connect them with their peers, they're so affirmed in their own identity. If they go to school and someone says something, they don't receive it. But it has to be a consistent thing. And that's why we go for a whole year. They're getting built up so much from their own peers, they don't get affected by the bullying. And if they do,
Well, go ahead. So this can actually help prevent bullying.
1,000%. We, in our second quarter on the program, we actually talk with kids on how to handle that. We give them the level of understanding that if someone said something not nice, they're probably hurting them or hurting themselves.
Well, that's what I told my daughter. I said, you need to ask her where's this coming from and don't react, respond, because your natural reaction of a mama is say, bye-bye, I have no friends. But I told her, just try to get to know where she's coming from, because hurt people, obviously.
Hurt people. But this isn't taught in schools. And that's why I'm so grateful. Partnering with American Prep, Dana Williams, Vineet Christina from the school, for 2 years, they have been looking for, and it falls in the school world, they call it social emotional learning. Kids Rev is unique because it combines all four, but for 2 years, they were looking for different ways to help the kids. They were on the front line seeing the problem and knowing that these type of coping skills, mental, physical activities are not provided in the school system. So that's where we show up to fill in the gap and truly give them quality of life that they're meant to have.
And have you seen children be able to wing off of ADD, HDD medication, antidepressants, etc.? Have you seen that?
100%. And, of course, we have to say, like the disclaimer, it's up to the parent and all of these things. But my son in particular, it was when he was 7. So even before I started doing this, the school, called. I remember the day I was cooking dinner and they called and they're like, your son has ADHD. We're recommending that he go get medical help and attention. I mean, that was like a defining moment where I remember I was cooking spaghetti and then I went, oh my God, you just want to drop the phone. And we went the route of paying thousands to a psychologist. Again, this was before I did the program, trying to get him into sports, trying thousands to change his nutrition. And when I actually fully got him on the Kids Revolution program, it was a little different than it is now. That's when I saw the change. And even Nico, we have a great video that you'll actually see. When I first met him, his eyes, and he wasn't speaking full sentences. After just even a week on the challenge in the program, he was focused, looking in the eyes. His happiness was there. And it all comes down to neurodevelopment. But how do we get our kids to do it? And that was the problem. And that's why, thank goodness, it took forever, I feel like, in my world, but to find what the kids will actually do. And
what about autism? Do you see any success in autistic children?
We've had quite a few smaller groups that we've worked with that. And for that, their happiness level goes up. Again, it's all about the brain. And that's why I ended up in Venice. I got invited to come speak there for the Better World Fund on neuroscience, Because when we can get the brain in a chemical state that's conducive for growth, flood it with serotonin, get them feeling better, that is when the quality of life changes, whether it's someone on the spectrum or a child struggling with ADHD or our amazing kids that are just struggling with comparing themselves to the rest of the world. When we get that brain in a conducive state for growth is when they have the quality of life that they're meant to have. But it's just hard to find in one place.
Yeah. And I think it's so important too, especially with, human trafficking being the number 2 crime in the world, really being able to empower little girls and boys, not to get on these sites, these predator sites, and not to become a prey. And, I was watching a TV program today while I was doing this about this little 16-year-old was on this site because she didn't feel loved. She didn't feel like she got any attention. And the only thing that was giving her attention were these men that she met on a site. So
the problem, with that, we could sum it up in low self-esteem. And the biggest thing that coincides the same thing with getting in trouble with suicidal thoughts, because depression, anxiety, attempted suicides, mental health are all just off the charts right now. And that really falls in line with low self-esteem. So I had a judge who had gone through the 28 Days to Activate program. They asked actually that we would create a program for these teenagers who got in trouble. And this all ties into exactly what you just brought up. What I realized with my first 12 kids, 8 of the parents I got to meet, and they seemed, good. 4 of the parents were struggling. But guess what? All of those children, those teenagers got in trouble, got into the court system because of one thing. One thing. It was one outside influence that told them to do something. Same thing with these girls and boys who are getting hooked on the internet. If they do not have a solid enough identity, and I wish to goodness it could only come from the parents. It just can't. They have to have an identity solid within themselves. It helps with the parents, but also from their peers. So these kids were all getting in trouble or getting hooked online or getting depressed because of bullying, because they don't have a solid enough identity and the cognitive, chemical state of a brain that keeps them feeling good. And the solution is it's the revolution. That's the solution.
All right. Well, let's get more into that. But one thing I really wanted to ask you is, what are the 5 keys to raising children? We're getting short here on time, but I can't let you leave without knowing what the 5 keys are to raising extraordinary children, because we need, I feel like we need better, not just better parenting, but better education. It needs to be in the school systems. What are the 5 keys?
Absolutely. So I'm glad you asked. And for anybody watching too, Michelle, I have the free training. It's a 20 minute video.
Get into all of that. Yeah. We're going to get into everything they should do with you.
Yes. So you can do that to follow it along. But number 1 is their thoughts and thinking about themselves. And I'm glad you asked, because we also build in the education for the parent. I was amazed. It's not understood out there. And this combination of 5, this is a combination of 5 things that can change everything for your child. So number 1 is their thoughts and their thinking about themselves. Okay. Mm-hmm. Number 2.
Now, one thing I notice sometimes when I correct my daughter, she'll say, "You don't like me," or "You don't love me." Where is that coming from? Because I tell her 100 times a day how much I love her, and my whole world revolves around her. Where does that come from?
That's where that leads into, where does our thoughts and our thinking come from? So any brain, right? Any thought comes from things that we have seen or heard. And unfortunately, the majority of what is on television or social media falls into those categories. The biggest thing that I'm hearing parents say a lot about their child is saying, now I'm confused. Do I like, oh gosh, I don't want to get into it, but this is
that's a whole nother show. That's a whole nother show.
It's the thoughts and the thinking of, they wouldn't be able to think it if they didn't see it somewhere else. But the way that we combat that is by giving them as much opportunity as possible to have those thoughts and thinking. And that comes from, it can't just come from you. That's why I just got so passionate. It has to kind of come from their other peers.
I mean, she'll even say, I
thinking
don't
that
like
they're
myself.
awesome.
She'll say, I don't like myself. I'm like, where is that coming from?
Yep.
We talk-
Yeah, it's from TV, it's from social media, it's from TikTok, it's from all of this. And that's why we have to be part of the solution, is bringing this into that space. That's why
Yeah,
we're
I mean,
passionate about
we
the
monitor
metaverse.
her TV, we monitor
Yeah.
her social media. We won't let her get a phone. There's
Yeah.
no reason for her to have
Yeah.
a phone at this age.
Yeah.
Anyway,
Yeah.
so number one
Yeah.
is their thinking, their thoughts, right?
Their thoughts of thinking about themselves, which
Okay.
they need repetition and they need to hear it from other peers for
Okay.
it to be highly enforced.
From other
Number
peers,
two,
not just the parents. Very important.
very important. And that's why I couldn't find, where could I find a place that I could ensure my son was going to have positive friends? There's nothing, because even in sports, they were dealing with the same thing. So we had to cultivate an environment of kids that were at the same level in positive thought thinking concepts. I had to create it for them, right?
Okay.
So number two is their body movements. And this is adults, this is children. If we are sitting most of the time, and I wish it, back in the day, we used to play outside. That's just not happening anymore, right? So the body movements, we've been talking a lot, and we did in the beginning, these activator movements, they have to be moving on a daily basis in a way that is not what they're used to. This is the only way we can wake their brain up. And then the third piece is actually connections. So we kind of touched on this, skipped around a little bit. What connections, meaning who are they talking to? Neurodevelopment, neurofeedback is happening.
What are they
right
listening to? Yeah. What are
Right?
they listening to?
What are they listening to? And also talking about. So something happens to the brain. This is why when we have guides, they get voice memos. This is why with Kids Revolution, we have to get them on a call where they are speaking with other peers about higher topics. So it's the communication and connection with other humans on a speech level. And the fourth piece is basically, what food are they eating? And this is not about weight. This was the biggest ahas when we go through the 5 keys to raising extraordinary child training that the most parents were surprised about. It's not about food for weight. It is about what are they putting in their body that is destroying, and I wish it wasn't this extreme, their brain, or making their brain healthier.
Right.
And I get more into that. And then the fifth part is purpose. Just like us as an adult, what is our child feeling that they are passionate about, that we had to give them a purpose. If they don't have something that drives them, something to be excited about, then that's like the final key that's missing in a lot of them. This is where depression comes in, or them saying like, I'm lost, I'm struggling. They don't have anything that they're feeling they're a part of and something that they are proud of. And that's why we built in them getting to create their own videos. I've never seen children get so happy and so excited as they do when they get to create their very own activator video. And they're a part of a global thing where kids are coming together. That's the final piece, is something that they're proud of.
Yeah, I mean, they love videos, they love photography, they love technology. My daughter loves creating videos of herself. And, I tell you, her gymnastics teacher, so she's been a little bit on the fence about gymnastics and thought that she might not move up because they're only going to move up a certain kids. Well, the coach said, listen, all you have to do is listen to me, do the work, focus, and you'll move up. She taught her a new routine last night. She came home on fire. She was so excited. She's like, I love gymnastics again. And she had a new purpose. Before she thought, oh, I'm just stagnant. I'm not going anywhere here. And I think it's so important for kids to have purpose, just like it is adults. How do you incorporate grit? Grit. I find so many so many employees, so many people just don't have the grit. When I go to hire people, to me, grit's more important than education is.
So with adults and with children, it's a little different. And this is why, again, I can't speak volumes enough about American Preparatory that is implementing the Kids Revolution. It's going to be a required course training for these students. Because it's just not being taught in schools. With children, I should say, if kiddos are watching, plug ears for a second, we trick them into it. There's psychological things that we have built into the Kids Revolution worldwide that are actually making it fun and engaging, where we are actually truly wiring their brains at a young age to understand consistency, perseverance, how to treat other people, the kind of friends that you want in your life. So in Kids
and the kind of friends that you don't.
Yes. Yep. All of that is built in, but for grit for kids, it can't be grit. That's where a lot of broken children, right? Like things happen where they feel pushed, even though parents might have good intentions or all these things. So with the kids, you allow it to be a fun experience to continue to grow, to be consistent, to be kind, to be intentional. But we had to build it in a fun way.
When I look at grit, I bring up grit because too many people quit too soon. Too many millennials, too many Gen Zs, too many children give up too soon because they don't have grit. They're told, it's okay. You can go try something else, so that's why to me, I think it's so important to incorporate grit so our children are not giving up. I mean, I have a friend of mine where their child does this, doesn't like it, does this, doesn't like it. There's no stickability.
What I discovered, and this is like scary, amazing, why people give up. Brain development. How was their brain developed when they were younger? When I had a client, Beth, who came to me and, someone told her, you look like a pig when she was younger, right? She had this identity and struggled, with poor health her whole life. Now, she also struggled to stay physically consistent. When a child from a young age is not taught consistency and the brain isn't grown. So what we're seeing, like you're talking about with these millennials with this thing, their brain wasn't developed for consistency. It's small spurts of growth and then sitting doing nothing. So it's actually not that they don't have the grit. Their brain wasn't trained from a young age to keep going.
And their parents probably a lot of times say, that's okay, you can quit.
And the parent probably had the same thing, unless someone will use physical activity as an example. If the parent, I studied 100 people at my gym who only lasted for 3 months. Like you sign up for a gym membership, that New Year's resolution, and it's like you plan on going the whole year and being healthy, but everybody was 3 months. I started making phone calls and I started doing deep internal questions. Luckily, people know I was coming from a good place, but it was most of them were taught 3 months of sports activities. So instead, they were accidentally self-sabotaging because their brain wasn't taught consistency from the time they were little. And without
that's why I love
quit.
gymnastics. Gymnastics is not 3 months. Tennis is not 3 months.
right?
Horseback riding is not 3 months. And those all in all movement.
Yeah.
All right. Tell us real quick before we have to leave. What is BPP?
So same thing on the American Preparatory and Vision People Project are two of the most extraordinary companies right now that are pioneering reinventing education into the metaverse and also into blockchain. So we need to be ahead of technology. We need to not just meet the children where they are, but be where they are going and where they want to be. So Vision People Project is pioneering Kids Revolution onto the blockchain with NFTs, with nodes. If you're not familiar with this, it's okay. It's amazing. We have more information. But where all the children are going, where they're learning about blockchain, crypto, NFTs, we're meeting the kids there with reinventing education through Vision People project. And then American Preparatory in the metaverse, like literally going to be the first fully accredited online K through 12 school that is doing experiential learning, all of their classes, as well as the Kids Revolution, mental, physical health, on a new global, a new global way, metaverse and blockchain.
That's awesome. Yeah. All right. So any last minute thoughts for those business owners that are struggling with stress, lack of sleep, pain, etc.? Any last minute thoughts for us parents trying to raise extraordinary kids? And then let's talk about how everybody can reach out and your 5 key training, how to grow extraordinary children, Kids Revolution, how we can be a part of that, the 28-day challenge. Do you have any challenge? I know I'm unpacking a lot right now, but and then do you have any challenges for our audience, for our listeners?
Yeah.
All that
I would say for those busy entrepreneurs, find a way that 25, 30 minutes in the morning, like try the experiment, I like to say, of consistency, which with that much time in the morning. If you need that help and that guidance, we'll have where you can get access to the 28 days. But like actually believe and know that it's more simple than we think that can truly change everything, that 25, 30 minutes in the morning. And then for the children, or if you're looking at the 5 keys to raising an extraordinary child, we have that access to that training that can enlighten a lot. We have further education there. Yeah.
Great. So how do entrepreneurs, parents, how do we get in contact with you if we want to start the 28-day challenge? We want to start the Kids Revolution, the training. How does everybody find you?
Absolutely. The easiest thing right now is the www.terra. It's TERHA. My name's spelled a little bit different. 360.com. So Terra, TERHA, 360.com. You can send a private message with either one of the programs you would like more information on, and we can get you set up on your way. Terra360.com.
So Tara, I know I'm going to put you on the spot real quick, but I think you can handle it. Throw out a challenge for my entrepreneurs, my busy entrepreneurs, and throw out a challenge for us parents that we can do in the next 28 days. Throw out a challenge or next 30 days. It takes 30 days to create a new habit?
Yeah, I would literally, and again, it goes back to the same simplicity when saying 25 minutes in the morning of physical activity for you and your children. That's now
do that, and then reach out to Tara and let her know, reach out to both of us and let her know how that 28 challenge changed your life.
Yes, 25 minutes in the morning. Just give it a shot. Watch what can happen, combine those movements. Again, if you want the guidance, but it's you and your child. So for example, if you're working with morning routines and habits with your kiddos, why not get them moving first thing in the morning? I know it might be easy and there's no judgment here to have a turn on the TV or just get them their breakfast. But if there can be that fun way, and we do it in a fun, reinvented way to get them moving in the morning, your whole life will change. You're going to have a happier kiddo and you're going to be a lot happier yourself. That's like, it's extreme, night and day difference.
Yeah. And you're not talking about a lot of time. It's hard for me because I get up at 4. All right. So any other words of wisdom? You dropped so many golden nuggets. Unfortunately, we do have to run. Any other words of wisdom for entrepreneurs and parents?
Yeah, just give yourself that time in the morning, that just over and over again.
It makes a huge difference.
Yeah, it does.
1,000%. Yeah. All right. Well, thank you, Tara, so much. You dropped so many golden nuggets and so much wisdom. And, we do need to do a better job of taking care of ourselves, because if we don't get back and take care of ourselves, we're not going to be much to anybody else.
Yeah.
And, we're responsible for the future. So we need to make sure we're growing our children to the best of our ability. And that takes help. Kids don't really come with a training manual.
Right.
So I encourage all my listeners to follow you. Thank you to all my listeners for joining us on another episode of Exit Rich. Make sure you share this with your network. If you're a Tara fan, which I know so many people are Tara fans, make sure you share that with your network as well. And let's get more kids into the Kids Revolution. Let's get more people. Let's get America moving. Let's get the world moving. Let's create better, happier, healthier kids. And so anyway, thank you for being an amazing guest. Make sure to my Exit Rich. Make sure you subscribe. Make sure you, again, share this with your audience. And we'll see you next Tuesday for another episode of Exit Rich. Thank you, Tara.
Bye, everyone.
You're just a wealth of knowledge and so much energy and always smiling.
Just getting started, baby.
All right. Thank you.